Welcome to the March Early Childhood and K through 12 Education Policy Committee meeting for Ellevate Louisiana. Today we'll be talking to board members Libbie Sonnier and Paula Polito for the status updates on early childhood education efforts. Paula is also one of the chairs of this committee. Paula operates Beary Cherry Tree Child Development Center in Metairie, and Libbie leads the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. They are both some of the most premier experts in this field, and we're so lucky to have them within Ellevate Louisiana and lucky to hear from them today. So I would just turn it over to you guys and hear your update.
Thank you, Julie. I'm so excited to be here to present with my colleague, Dr. Libbie Sonnier. And what we have to share is sort of twofold. I'll kick it off and share details on our Birth to Three, basically report that came out of the Early Childhood Commission, which is made up of a host of individuals, early childhood experts, but as well as business people and individuals from around the state. So it's a nice mix of people, not just our early childhood experts. And that commission's job is to truly tell the legislature what financial amount needs to go to early care and education, right? So we've got two boards. We have an early childhood advisory board and then the commission. The commission speaks to, here's how much money we need. This is what it's going to look like from a financial perspective. So I'll kick us off with that, and then Libbie is going to share some slides after. So this Louisiana Birth to Three report came out of a lot of work, a lot of task forces, but it's for the first time, honestly, in my opinion, a really wonderful, not only visual, but comprehensive plan that came out of the commission. So it's a beautiful, and we can share it with the group after. It starts off with a shared vision, and the report has got great pictures in it. It's easy to read. And I remember lots of discussion around, should it look like this? Should it look like that? So I think what we've landed on is a really nice report, as comprehensive and concise, if you will, as possible. There's a ton of information that we're really trying to articulate to people, but a variety of audiences and how you get that in a condensed version. So anyway, what I most appreciate from the report is the recommendations. And what they've done is divide the recommendations up into three. So we start with the short-term recommendations. There were three short-term recommendations that came from this work. First is to restore state funding for childcare assistance, or what they call CCAP, to the fiscal year 24 level, which is at $87.7 million. First recommendation, restore funding for CCAP. The second recommendation is to appropriate at least $30 million to what we call the Early Childhood Education Fund. This fund, we worked hard to get into place, and I'll speak to codifying that fund in a moment, but we've worked really hard not only to get it in place, but locals throughout the state have spent time and time again, countless energy on getting money to the table, getting local philanthropists, government, anybody to invest money in the early care and education fund. So we're asking that, again, that second recommendation is to appropriate at least $30 million to the ECE fund. Why is this important? Because over the past few years, the locals have done just that. They've gotten this money. There's money in the fund, and Libbie will speak to this in a moment, how much money is in the fund, but we've got it there. In order to keep it, we need to make sure that the legislature puts and matches that money in there, because children need it in order to get to school every day. The third short-term recommendation is we're asking local, state, regional, and local agencies to serve as vocal champions to educate. And that's, the low-hanging fruit for Ellevate, Julie. I see it as just educate, continue to speak those same talking points to anyone and everyone they speak to. And the more individuals beyond Libbie and her team, or Paula and her team, that are going to these people, our state reps, state senators, saying this is important and this is why, the better. And so we want to encourage everyone to continue to be a champion for ECE. So those were our three short-term recommendations. If you look at the intermediate recommendations, we've also got three of those. The first is to invest an additional $98 million over the next 10 years. Seems like a big lift, but we've got a lot of children, of children who need this high quality of care. The fifth is to codify the existing fund. So I spoke to that fund a few minutes ago. We've got a fund in place, but it has not been codified in law. We are asking our legislators to do just that in order to continue to fund it and to get buy-in from our locals. We want that fund codified.
It is codified in
Oh,
statute. What the recommendation is to codify to ensure that there'll always be enough matching money in
the
that
money.
fund.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Libbie. Six is to build local capacity to generate revenues for ECE. We've been really trying hard in Jefferson to do just that. Orleans has done a wonderful job of that. They have created a millage. And again, when Libbie shares the dollar amounts shortly, you will see this big disparity that exists where New Orleans is to where Jefferson is. But we really want to continue to build local capacity. We saw a gentleman speak at the commission. He is out of Rapides Parish. He spoke with such vigor and such, passion around why it's important. We need more individuals at the local level able to do just that. And then finally, we've got four long-term recommendations. The first is to cover that thing called the true cost of care. And that true cost of care is hard to get to, but we know it is well above what is being paid out right now. It's expensive, and Libbie, you hear people often say it's as much as a college tuition. But when you think about caring for children, birth to 4, 5 days a week, at least 10 hours a day, and you break down what, say, $200 a week is, it's less than $3 an hour. Is that truly what it costs? Absolutely not. So getting people to understand this is not babysitting. This is truly the new word we're using, brain architects. It truly is that. The more we can invest in it, but trying to get to the true cost of care. The second long-term recommendation is building towards affordable access for every family. Right now, and again, Libbie will speak to the numbers, but we're not covering all families. There are so many families that don't have access to this high quality of care. So how do we capture everyone to ensure everyone is ready to enter kindergarten successfully? Ninth is to bring in a variety of resources to support early care and education. And then finally, make funding stable and predictable for the early care and education industry. Any MBAs in the room, if you looked at what we have to work with, you would run and hide. It's not a comfortable place to be. So the more we can find, well, Julie, you're a CPA, right? So you would shriek if you saw the way this operates. So trying to get to a stable environment would be advantageous for the childcare providers who are often working off of super razor thin sharp margins. So that is basically the report. I'll ask that Mallory share it. It's again visually you can see it's well, you can't really see on my screen, but it's a great, I think it's 9 pages, but something to just kind of review at your convenience. And again, I think it's one of the most comprehensive reports the commission has put out in quite some time. Excellent. I will, turn it over to Libbie and let her share the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Paula. And we have that in the calendar appointment. If not, we're going to put it there in the next few.
Thanks so much, Paula. I think I really thought that kicking off with the beta 3 report was the way to go before I get a little deeper into a few things. One of the things I think is important to know as a Ellevate member that we all are is that by virtue of being an Ellevate, that means you're part of the Ready Louisiana Coalition, which is a coalition now close to 200 members strong of United Ways, Chamber of Commerce, economic development organizations, also childcare centers, nonprofits, policy people. And it is really about increasing investment in early childhood education in the state of Louisiana. And so we help manage that at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, and just super proud to have partners like you all as part of that coalition. And so as part of that coalition, we put together annually a joint statement, which I'm going to share with you all now. And you'll see within that joint statement that it really mirrors what Paula was just talking about with the B2 Commission. The Ready Louisiana Coalition is saying that we are urging the legislature to ensure the maintenance of $103.4 million in total funding for state pre-K programs for 4-year-olds. That was not in the commission report because the commission report is for birth to 3-year-olds. But in light of what we're all voting for no later than March 29th with the amendments, is that if Amendment 2 were to pass, when we vote, if it were to pass, it would eliminate 2,000 4-year-old seats in the state. And so if that does happen, that we would need to ensure that the legislature fully fund our pre-K 4-year-old program, because we can't afford to lose 2,000 4-year-old seats. One, we don't want to lose that many seats for 4-year-olds, but also it would destabilize our infant, toddler, early education opportunities too. So we want to make sure that we keep the funding for the 4-year-old preschool program. Additionally, which does mirror the birth to 3 report, is about investing in at least that $87.8 million in the childcare assistance. Last session, we lost $9 million. And so we just want to ensure that we're able to get that $9 million back if possible. And then appropriate at least $30 million to go into the Louisiana Early Education Fund that Paula mentioned, and I'll go deeper in. This is particularly important. So we know in the governor's budget, as he proposed it, he held steady with childcare assistance. And so at the $77 million that it's currently funded at. And then they gave appropriation of spending authority to spend a little over $30 million in the Early Childhood Education Fund, but that was no new dollars in the fund. It was just the spending authority to spend the money that's in the fund. And when I show you who's getting what money, you will see very quickly that if you've had any kind of, whether it's an MBA or you are just, you can balance a checkbook. You will see that we will run out of money, not this new fiscal year for 25-26, but we would run out of money in the 26-27 fiscal year in the fund based on how locals are stepping up to fund local early childhood education seats. And so just to give you a representative of the nearly 200 organizations that are part of Ready Louisiana, you might see some of your logos on here. You'll see Ellevate, you'll see the Policy Institute, you'll see Beary Cherry Tree as well, and a host of our friends from United Ways across the state and others, along with the Childcare Association of Louisiana, For Providers by Providers, and many partners. So super proud that we have built this coalition together, because it has taken all of us to get people engaged within early childhood education. And so this is a data dashboard we actually have live on our website at the Policy Institute that talks about the Early Childhood Education Fund. And so I need to get you an updated slide, but at the end of November, we had about $43 million in there. And that fluctuates from month to month. You know, if the Saints do well, if LSU something does well, if Joe Burrow does well, we make more money in our fund because we receive 25% of sports betting up to $20 million. Back in the 22 session, we were able get a direct appropriation of $40 million into the Early Childhood Education Fund. And that has really helped sustain the fund to be able to meet the needs of the locals that are tapping in. And so you'll see, the one-time state funding piece here was back in 22, and that was about $40 million. And then you'll see like industrial hemp is a little around 600,000. Sports betting at the time, we generate about right now between 9 and 12 million annually with sports betting, but that can fluctuate depending on who's doing well. But the other piece is you'll see the representation of who's getting the fund. And so it really has been statewide. And the four places in the state that really took up the banner early on, Orleans, Jefferson, Caddo, and Bossier parishes were the first early adopters of seeing how they could figure out how to tap into the fund. The fund was established in 2017 by Steve Carter and Walt Leger. Y'all, I know many of y'all will know those names well. And at the beginning of the fund, it was a 2-to-1 match. So for every $2 that locals raised, they would get $1 if there was money in the fund. We were able to change that in 2019 to offer a dollar for dollar match. And in 2019 is when we said, okay, if there's enough revenue coming out of Harrah's, which is now Caesars at the time, that would kick into the fund. Hemp was part of that process, as well as fantasy sports betting, but not until 2022 that we were able to get, or 21, that we were able to get the 25% of the sports betting revenue going into the fund, as well as the Pelicans license plate. So anybody that's a Pelicans basketball fan, we get 50% of that license plate. People are like, that's not a lot of money. Every little bit helps. So, for those of y'all who are Pelican fans, buy that license plate. 50% of that goes to the early education fund. And so you'll see over the first 4 years, we had four. The first year we had four parishes that tapped in, and then a little bit more in 23, 24. And then in 24, 25, we had a number of parishes that stepped up to say, we want to take part in the Early Childhood Education Fund. And here is the breakdown of the fund with the total revenues. So sports betting, about $13 million, a little over $13 million. The fantasy sports wagering, not much. Again, every little bit we will take. You'll see the hemp CBD products is a little over $1 million. The New Orleans license plate, about 4,000. We just started getting the land-based casino, which is Caesars in New Orleans, just 2 months ago. We started getting a little bit of revenue in there after 5 years. So it took a lot for them to get their numbers back up so they could kick in. And then their interest earnings. And so you'll see, like, by itself, there's about $15 million in there. And that one-time infusion of dollars in 2022 of the $40 million helped us really get to the pot, the place that we're at now with the fund. And you'll see the number of children that are served because of the Early Childhood Education Fund with the local match. And so we're able to really increase access in these local areas, which is super, super exciting. If the legislature is unable to grant spending authority, if there's not enough money in that fund for a full request match amount, the children in this program actually will lose their seats. And so that's something to keep in mind. So when Paula was talking about codifying the money that goes into the fund, that if locals say holistically we were raising $50 million over all these parishes a year, then it's really important that the state makes up their promise. They meet the promise that they said that we were going to do that dollar for dollar match, and being able to codify that can actually happen is becoming increasingly important. And so you'll see here, this is for the 24-25 ECE fund recipients, and they received a little over $30 million. And you can see from Orleans, because they have a millage for infants and toddlers and 3-year-olds, that's $23 million, a little over $23 million that they want to match every year. And then you look, little by little, Jefferson has gone up and how they've been able to get philanthropic dollars. Ascension Parish has come to the table. Caddo Parish and others, and $2 million. They did that through philanthropy. And so locals, the point is that locals are stepping up to say, we want to increase access in our area, because we really want to tap into that ECE fund, and we want to make sure there's enough money there. And so I just wanted to share that information with you so that you could see we're right over $30 million for the new fiscal year that'll start. Again, there will be enough money in the fund for the new fiscal year for 25, 26, but unless something changes, we will not have enough money to meet the local match. That's important to know because we don't know what the REC, the Revenue Estimating Committee, is going to come back in May, depending on if the constitutional changes happen or not. And we don't know what the economic viewpoint is. And so we'll know more in May with the REC. But, I know Paula and I agree that if there's extra dollars, that's one-time money that's floating around the state that you can't spend on a reoccurring expense, a good place to park that one-time money is in the early childhood education fund, because you're able to match. And that's good government. It's not saying that, the feds are completely responsible or the state's completely responsible or the locals are, but it's a way to do the dance with the state and local working together through this fund, along with the federal resources that we currently get now towards childcare assistance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
One of the questions I wanted to ask is, I saw that 23 million or so raised and spent on early childhood in New Orleans. And how many years have they done that now? Like, have the state met their requirement to them?
So it's just been in the last fiscal session, this fiscal session, that they've done the full, 21 to $23 million. So they've been able to match it. But we've only we had that one-time investment in 22. But if we go back to New Orleans history, they had their first local dollars back in 2017, which was $750,000. And in 2017, that is when the fund was created for a 2-to-1 match. And at first, there was no money in that fund. So we really only started getting money in the fund in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And then if we think about revenue generation, the sports betting is where we've had the revenue generation to be able to in the fund.
Yeah. Well, and so the hemp derived products, all the sodas and all that stuff that you see in the grocery store now, that's all paying into the fund?
Yes, if it's a hemp CBD product.
And it's still only bringing in, what was that? $1 million?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it could be more now. We update this annually. So this was for the 23-24 year. So as soon as we finish up this fiscal year, we'll have what the update is for 24-25.
So we currently have money in the account, and they didn't appropriate any new deposits. They just gave spending authority to spend what's in there now.
Just spending authority. And they increased it by $900,000 because that's how the locals, we know that the locals will need. So they increased the spending authority by about $900,000 in the governor's budget.
So, okay. So you said that there was about 43 million in the fund right now, correct?
Correct.
And so that would get us through some amount of time, a year. Is that what they're trying to say? That it will
get us through this new fiscal year for 25-26. Okay. We will be whole, but we're unsure about what would happen for 26-27. And so again, I will reiterate, if there is one-time money floating around that cannot be spent or reoccurring expenses, the Early Childhood Education Fund is a really nice place to be able to put those excess dollars in. And that you're gonna bang for your buck. You're gonna get at least a 13% return on investment for every dollar that we spend in quality early childhood education.
All right. Paula and Libbie, thank you so much for sharing this information with us today. And for all of you listening, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. If you're interested in these types of policy talks, check us out on Ellevate Louisiana's website, where you can learn more about our events, our policy committees, advocacy efforts, and how to join. That website is ELLEVATELA.org. Remember, big changes start with informed conversations. Keep the dialogue going, and we'll see you next time.